Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about cassettes having a certain moment, and we're going to be reviewing the newest record from The Offspring. All that, plus more, on today's Rock and Roll Brunch podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Rock and Roll Brunch podcast. My name is Josh Marcanti. As always, with me, my two wonderful, handsome co-hosts, Mr. Dane Erbach. Dane, how are you today?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Just okay.
Yeah, just okay.
Mm-hmm.
Up late?
No.
Yeah?
No,
Okay.
Went to bed early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't stay up till 1:30 in the morning watching Mortal Kombat?
I didn't. Nor did I stay up late in the middle of the night with my child who wanted to go shopping.
She did. She did want to go shopping. That's true. But I did stay up late watching Mortal Kombat aside from
boy.
With me also is, you heard that man, Mortal Kombat fan, Chris Marcanti. How are you, Chris?
Was it worth it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a great movie.
If you're a Mortal Kombat fan.
Listen,
Yeah,
I wasn't a huge fan of the last Mortal Kombat movie.
From 1998?
No,
Yeah.
no, 1997, and I know this because I looked it up. And I told Allie, my wife, I said, hey, when I was 11 years old, Mortal Kombat Annihilation came out, and I was like, check the date. It was November 21st, 1997. I was like, the one thing we wanted to do, Chris and I, was to go see Annihilation in theaters. And my dad, bless his heart, was like, all right,
Yeah.
going to see Mortal Kombat.
Well,
And we did.
I don't remember any of that.
Oh, I totally remember that. Yeah, your memory is terrible. So
I
No, I
had
would
Mortal
tell
Kombat 3 for my original Game Boy, and I played it a lot.
God,
Yeah.
interesting.
And that's about it. That's all. I played a lot of arcade Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah. I mean, that's the jam.
Back in the day.
Dane, have you been listening to anything interesting lately?
I've been thinking about this all week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About what?
Give-
What?
give-
Don't think about it. Just look at the thing.
No.
You
don't-
were
Because the thing
don't-
is I know the answer,
Oh.
and I'm not sure I want to say it aloud.
You definitely do. Oh, if you think you might not want to, now you definitely want to.
Now you have to.
So my son, my oldest, is into this game Roblox. You guys just wait until your kids are old enough to
My
start.
son's already asking about it. Yeah.
Oh, is he really? Were
I
there?
heard a statistic that more than 50% of children under the age of 16 have played or developed on Roblox. Like, it's an insane platform.
It's kind of like stupid though, because it's. I mean, my take is like all these developers can create all these different games, but it also becomes this weird world where all these games are kind of like meh, half-developed games in this realm where but they're easy games to play and everyone can play them all at once, and they're it's so my kids really liked it for a year or two now, and he discovers all these pop culture things through the game.
Oh, that's
so he'll
cool.
like hear a song and he'll be like, do you know this song? I'll be like, yeah, I know Cotton Eye Joe. And you know what I mean? Like
no.
he starts to figure this out. So anyway, one thing he figured out was this game called Friday Night Funkin'. You guys ever hear Friday Night Funkin'?
Not on your life.
He's been asking about it, and there's just something vaguely weird about it. But ends up it's like a Dance Dance Revolution kind of game, or like Parappa the Rappa. Do you remember that guy?
Yeah,
I
of course.
do remember that one, yeah.
So it's a game like that where you just like somebody's written these like songs though. And they have this sort of like Animal Crossing nonsense language to them.
Oh yeah. I know what you mean.
We've been listening to it a lot, and the worst part is like because Emmett's been really into it. My kids got this brain. Both of my boys, when they have this brain when they're really into something, they become kind of borderline obsessed for a while, like super obsessed, and now it's starting to become like video games and stuff. So we're like, I found the soundtrack in the car, and the worst part, and we've been listening to it while we're driving around. The worst part is like I'm starting to kind of like the songs.
Oh, no.
And so it's like this weird, it's like if you could imagine like a rap battle between people on Animal Crossing, that's kind of like a pretty good summary of what I've been listening to lately.
A rap battle.
Is it not
A
English?
rap
It's
battle
just
on Animal
random.
Crossing.
I think it's mostly gibberish. I think it's mostly just like
Is that
beebo
like
dee doo da doo
Like
beebo.
like Simish? they call that? Like
A little
where it's
bit,
like
yeah,
The Sims,
Simlish
or
or
they
whatever. Yeah.
Simlish.
Simlish.
It's
Simlish.
the thing is though, it's like the melodies are kind of catchy, and the beats are not terrible. And every time you listen to them and you think like, oh, this is just something that some dude slapped together for this soundtrack, you hear these like cool little like hits in the drums. So you're like, oh,
You're like, ooh,
that was kind of cool.
Somebody's got a little talent back there.
I mean, like it was. I mean, I've been listening to the Friday Night Funkin' soundtrack, guys.
I added
That's
you
a
as
deep dive.
I added you as a friend on Switch and you didn't accept me. Chris,
Me?
what
Yeah.
have you,
I haven't
what have
played
you
my
been-
Switch in forever.
what have you been? Wait, what did they play Roblox on?
Oh, Emmett's got an iPhone
Oh,
because we didn't want to pay more money for a new tablet, and I was swapping my iPhone anyway, so I'm like,
makes sense. Yeah.
You're of a certain age now, son. Yeah.
Wow. Is it work or is it just like a dead phone?
It's doesn't have a
It
SIM
doesn't have
card.
cellular. Yeah,
No, it's just
Yeah.
it's basically like an iPad. So
Got it.
that's it.
I thought he was calling his buddies. And
No,
stuff.
not yet. Although they are through Facebook Messenger for kids. Yeah.
Weird.
Yes.
I didn't
We
know.
had we had a walkie-talkie that could reach between houses.
That's pretty cool.
That was our thing.
That was our thing.
That's cool. What?
Yeah, I don't think I've been listening to anything cool
Oh,
at all. Yeah, I was just
cool,
looking
man.
through my
So cool.
a couple of these like blues rocky things. There's a woman named Yola, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but she's got a really awesome voice. Basically, anything produced by like Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys, like they got like a real cool vibe going on. To the Black Pumas have been another thing. They've been around apparently for a long time, but I just discovered them recently when Amanda told me about them. But that's it. Nothing cool.
You're
That's cool.
becoming one of like those older guys that just listens to like a lot of alt country kind of stuff. It's like you've graduated to this phase. It's a good phase.
That hurts his feelings. Look
It's
at
a
him.
great phase.
He's really
but-
hurt.
I do. I've recently gained an adoration for Jason Isbell that I think I might even be wearing a Jason Isbell shirt. But speaking of alt country,
Yeah, that's what I mean. You just got to grow a longer beard though.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, I just need to grow it in the right places. I think is really the problem. But anyway,
Don't we all?
yeah.
Well,
Josh, what about you? What have you been
Especially
listening to?
especially me, and I'm really trying. I am.
Yeah, it's just
I've been listening to. I actually missed out on a few records that I recently found out, so I've been kind of going back through some 2020 stuff, specifically stuff that might be good for a future show. I don't know if we could go back to 2020 before we started recording, but whatever.
nobody wants to.
Broadway Calls had a record that I missed out on.
Oh, it's super good. It's
oh,
interesting.
great.
Yeah, it's an interesting record.
Sad in the City is what. So I was like, oh, how did I not know this? I was such a big fan of their Comfort Distraction, I think is what it's called. Their previous one, and so I've been jamming that, as well as the new I Am Avalanche record. Been jamming that one. So, cool. Well, let's go ahead and get into today's show. Officially, we're going to be talking today about one from Billboard.com. It is.
I think they should just sponsor the podcast.
Yeah,
I mean, you want to just like send him a DM on Twitter and see what happens?
Yeah, I will. I didn't even think about the word DM. I thought email, but apparently DMs are the new email.
Chris Dane's
Yeah.
all up in the DMs, so he knows.
He slides into DMs
He's-
all the time.
Look at him. Look at him.
You know, guys, I have students who listen to this show. We can't be like talking about me
Oh,
sliding
no.
into weird.
I don't know.
Into Roblox DMs? Do
Yeah,
Roblox have?
It doesn't have to
It's
be a
not even-
sexual thing. It could just be you're into Roblox, and
I'm not a robot.
yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are.
Speaking
Yeah,
of speaking of Roblox, it says titled Cassettes are having a moment. What it means for the format to have big artists joining the revival. So this one is brought to us by the good folks at Billboard.
Great folks at Billboard.
Yes.
Who are
Sponsoring the show.
keeping this show alive. Thank you very much, Billboard. So yeah, it was an article that came out talking about basically how cassettes are having a moment. They're growing. they talked about a few different things, how and I have some notes here. Yeah, looks like there's really kind of one manufacturer right now for the magnetic tape that goes into cassettes. How they sold, they were up to 9,000 cassettes a month in 2019. And now 2021, they're up to 30,000 cassettes a month. They're seeing a 23% increase from the prior year. So yeah, cassettes are having this revival. Really, for you guys, my only note was why.
It's a good question.
Yeah, but why though? So, sell me on cassettes. If you guys are in the cassette camp, why?
Yeah.
Why?
I think I'd like Dane to talk for 80% of this conversation.
I could make a pretty good pitch for cassettes.
Wait,
oh my God!
Wait, but before you pitch it, are you a cassette consumer, or you just like you get it?
I get it.
Okay.
I have not bought a lot of cassettes, but it's not because I don't want to. It's because like where I go shopping for music, like physical music, is not really a cassette place. You know what I mean? Like
this is what was going to be one of my questions too.
Well, and that's and they talk about that in the article a little bit, but yeah,
right. But I have been flirting with the idea of like if there's a record that I really like, and
sliding into its DMs.
Mm-hmm. Sidebar. Sidebar. I feel like your accent. I feel like your accent is getting more northern. Like you're like I have. I feel like I have. We did our impressions we did our impressions a few weeks ago, and I'm focused. I want to get better at yours.
You're jonesing for a rewrite.
I'm focusing on your. No, I did pretty good, and I want to get better at it. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
you guys can. You know what? I'm not going to talk anymore. You guys can do the rest of this episode.
You're not going to talk.
Yeah. I feel like I have.
Just talk for me, Josh.
I'm so interested in this conversation.
Yeah. No, I am. Yeah. Look at him. No, we're on the same team, Dane. We're on the same team. We are always on the same team.
Josh?
Yes. Yes. Screw that kid. Screw Chris.
It's pretty easy to get back onto Team Chris. Door is actually always open.
It's not a bad thing. I adore it. I adore his accent. I'm just noticing that it's anyway. Please continue. We're on the same team.
Like it's not easy to find cassettes, and that's I think part of the problem with the format is that I've been flirting with the idea of instead of like usually if I order something like a record that I really want physically, I just want vinyl because I listen to vinyl more than I listen to. At home, I listen to vinyl more than I do listen to anything, than I stream anything, you know what I mean? So, and yeah, like when I'm willing to spend the money, I'm willing to spend $20 on an awesome record. But I have been flirting with the idea of like, well, there's a record that I could kind of like. I don't really need it on vinyl. The vinyl pressings aren't that cool, but they have cassette versions and it's only $5. And so maybe I'll just pick that up. And I bought a cassette deck from like Savers for like $5. That's amazing. Like a big cassette receiver that's right next to my stereo receiver. $5, man. And I think that is my pitch for cassettes in general is that, when we're talking about physical formats, I don't understand why cassettes would be any less of a cool physical format than CDs, of course, right? Which are not very sexy at all. And vinyl is very sexy and very cool as a format, but is pretty expensive and pretty cumbersome as a consumer and a music listener to dive into.
So but you said less. Do you think that cassettes are equally as sexy as vinyl? Then
no.
Okay, thank God. Okay, you said you don't see that they're less sexy.
But they can be.
But you were saying less sexy than CD. I was just asking if you were.
So like some of my bias comes from having a record label, and not always having enough money to press a record we like onto vinyl. Because I don't want to ramble too much. Will you tell me to shut up if I'm talking too much?
Take another two.
Okay, so let me try to. I want to try to set
Time's
up
up.
the pros from like through the process. If you're a record label,
And you're done. No, go ahead. I'm kidding.
if you're a record label, cassettes are very like easy to make.
Sure.
All right. There's a few really awesome cassette plants. They make the process of putting cassettes together pretty easy. There are some really cool options for like packaging that go with cassettes that you wouldn't think there would be. And then the turnaround time is like 3 to 4 weeks instead of, I mean, I've had some
They were saying,
vinyl
yeah, like-
releases be 3 to 4 months. And the article talks about that, right? The
Right.
article got those dates wrong. They said 5 weeks for vinyl. That's bullshit. Like 5 weeks for vinyl is an awesome turnaround. It is like an amazing turnaround. And it's always been like that. Vinyl has...
Even without COVID, or
Yeah, like with COVID, it's worse. But although actually, our 2 COVID records got in my hands earlier than expected, so I don't know what that's all about. It's our cassettes that have been delayed because of COVID.
hilarious.
But to me, like the process of vinyl is way more intense because you got to like, you've got to like cut lacquers and approve those. You've got to like make masters. There are test presses that need approval. That takes extra time. Like there's a lot of steps with vinyl. And there aren't a lot of steps with cassettes. Like you submit the WAV files, you approve the artwork. 3 weeks later, you get a cool box of cassettes in your front porch, and you're like, yeah, let's do this, There are cool color options too for cassettes, and there's cool things you can do with the art on cassettes that make it seem like almost like as cool as the slab of wax that you get, when you get a vinyl record. I mean, like, that's just me, and that's
Sure.
sort of from a design sense. So
Yeah, my concern is that it's not a concern really.
How concerned are you?
I'm not very concerned.
Are you going to
but
write your senator?
My question is really like, are people making more supply than there is demand for it, or is it like we went from 219,000 cassettes and we're up to whatever?
Right.
Like, is that just somehow supply meeting demand of like there was a group of people that were like, I still have a Walkman, like I'm interested in whatever, and now now artists are putting out. I just can't, and I don't know in what quantities you do cassette runs at, but like I just can't imagine people are. Now the one thing the article does talk about, which I thought was a very interesting take, was like we still haven't seen what happens at merch tables, right? Like that's going to be the really important distinction.
To me, that's
the
why
most
important. Yeah,
Well,
because
sure.
like if you go to a show and there's like, here's a vinyl record for $20, and it's really awesome looking record, right?
Right.
And here's a cassette for $5, same album, and that's a different price point at your table that I think is a pretty good price point for music, $5 for a whole album, but with probably a download card or whatever in it, right? And then, but then if you think about it this way too, like if I don't have a turntable or a cassette player, right, which most people who are, not most people, some people who buy vinyl don't have a record player. Like they don't even know how
That's
to,
true.
they don't know how to get from, or they might have a Crosley and they'll never play the record. They just want to support the band, right? If we're thinking in those terms, and not the best terms to think in, I admit, but if we're thinking about it that way, what's the difference between a $5 cassette and a $20 record?
Well,
so
yeah, and I would go ahead, Josh.
To me, what, Chris, I feel like your concerns are different than mine. Like, I'm coming at it from the perspective of like I'm a 30-something with like semi-disposable income, right? So like I'm cool with spending a little bit more than maybe is like reasonable on a vinyl that I really want, and that being because like I want the thing and I want it to stay in my collection. And I want to hang on to it for the rest of my life. I feel like cassettes are this like trying to bridge this middle ground between like vinyl and stream digital MP3. Like it's this middle ground of like cassette, but like I don't know why we need that. I don't know, like if the quality isn't as good, And it's like oh, I gotta like get a cassette player for this. Like
I can address both of those concerns.
Crosley
sure,
will definitely
sure. I'm sure they're available, but I guess like in the article they talked about how it's and Dane, to your point too, it's easier to manufacture, so that there's it's faster turnaround. I'm willing to go like my favorite band just put out this record and they're gonna have a vinyl come out in 5 months. I'll wait. I think that's to me that's the beginning and end of vinyl, which is I'll wait for it. That's fine. I will for this quality thing that takes time to listen to, takes time to receive, takes time to process. That's the whole thing. Whereas like cassettes, like
I think some people
like I don't get it.
But
I don't
Josh,
get it.
Can I summarize your point very succinctly? If I like a band, but I'm not going to get the vinyl, I'll just buy a T-shirt, right? Like,
yeah,
there's
okay.
there's a mid-tier price point that allows people to support a band without having to go buy a cassette player.
Dude,
or buy a
this
method
is a
for
low
cassette.
tier price point.
But my point is to say, why not? I'm having a tough time believing people are going to go the extra $5 and buy a T-shirt rather than go try to find a cassette.
For
player.
some reason,
or like let's call it an extra $5 and you get a CD, which will always sound great. Even though they're not, and it's the same physical. I'm still getting a physical thing in my hands. It can have a booklet.
It's harder to listen to a CD now than it is a vinyl record.
No, that I believe, but I don't.
I
don't
can't
know
plug
if it's
either
harder
into
to
my
listen
computer.
to a CD than it is a cassette player.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't know though. So
I'm angry.
okay, so I want to
Write your senator.
I'm writing my senator.
I kind of feel like though, if you wanted music, right, at the merch table, and not all of us would want a short. Most of us maybe, not all of us.
Did you say a short?
A shirt.
Oh, one short.
Shorts too. I mean, some of us want shorts.
It's his northern. It's his northern accent.
Yeah. No, it's Team Dane. I forget it. Chris,
You're blowing it, Josh.
No. Team
You're
Dane.
blowing it.
Team Dane. 100%.
But for real, like if you wanted to get music from someone, or and I'm thinking bands too, if they wanted to release music and we want to just get it out there quickly and easily, or if you want to take home music from the band because you checked out a band that you really liked and you're excited to hear some of their music. I mean, like there are a ton of scenarios where a cassette would be like a cassette fills this gap in the marketplace. And I don't like talking about things like Chris, I know that that's your jam, is to talk about things in terms of like as a commodity and stuff, and the money it's making, the place in the economy that it exists.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
No, he does though, and
look at him.
But to me, like I think of it more as a supporter of music. Like I think that, like I said, I haven't been purchasing a lot of cassettes. I have purchased a couple. I think I'd like to do it more often though, because I feel like instead of one record, I might be able to get 4 cassettes that I really like.
Yeah, well, 2 things. One, I think you're a fringe case, but 2, the moment that this becomes interesting to me is when, like, I was going to ask because you're a purveyor of
a connoisseur,
but a purveyor of Siren Records and McHenry, and like I'm infatuated with that store, although I don't shop it as much as I'd like to.
I was just saying the other day. I was saying the other day to Chris, we got to go back. I'm
sure.
dying. I need to run.
I'm all for it. I was there a couple weeks ago.
The moment that they have a cassette section, I'll be
They do.
my ears.
But I don't know that they have new cassettes, and I think that's the gap in the marketplace. And although I think this article made it seem interesting that there was a couple of distributors out there that are starting to sell cassettes more frequently to record stores, and I think that's kind of a fascinating thing.
See, I'm gonna see that cassette section. I'm gonna go.
So now hold on,
dusty old cassette.
I just want to make this pitch one more time because I think
they all smell like cigarettes.
They probably do, dude. Like some old Guns N' Roses like cassette. You pull it out of that. I waited until Chris took a sip of coffee. But there is an interesting pitch to be made, and I guess one thing that I think is one interesting way of framing this conversation isn't like whether or not it makes sense to do cassettes. There are downsides and drawbacks to cassettes, and we are at the three of us are at the tail end of cassettes, like previous popularity.
Correct.
Like, we listened to our Walkmans in high school and listened to made mixtapes and stuff. You know what I mean? Like
definitely.
That's like pre-mix CDs.
Yes. Yeah, we definitely.
So we understand the cumbersome nature of cassettes. You know what I mean? Like we get it. But I want to make this case that we're also in this point where going and getting a cassette player that's used but in pretty good shape is going to cost far less money than a setup for vinyl. You know what I mean? And you don't need a good cassette player to play a cassette. Whereas if you get a crappy record player, it's gonna make the experience of listening to vinyl way shittier.
But why? But my question is, why would you voluntarily go like, I want a physical media, but I want it to not sound good?
Okay, but here's the thing, and I want you guys to come to my house and experience this with me. The cassettes that my label makes, we work with this. I just hit my mic. Sorry.
We're back.
I was on my way.
Yeah, I was coming over.
We work with this company that's from Canada, and I don't know, man. The cassettes they make sound good. I put them into a cassette player, and there's not a huge difference between the sound quality of like a record on my turntable and like this cassette. You can hear a little bit more.
I feel like them some fighting words for
I'm serious,
big vinyl
man.
fans.
But here's the thing: if you listen to vinyl, you already are expecting some of the sound quality on certain records to not be as good as some of the sound quality on other records.
I don't. First of all, I think the discussion around sound quality is a waste of time. Like it's
Agreed.
Just we don't because now the people that are buying vinyl are not people that are looking for warmth. They're people that are looking for physicality. Like it stopped being a thing.
Yes.
And so concern about cassettes.
I continue your point, please, but I actually disagree with that a little bit. But continue. Okay, please continue.
Yeah.
Your point,
Dan, I think I see your point, which is like this provides a cheaper way to enjoy physical music, and I don't know if there's anything necessarily wrong with that, especially if it garners money for people, for bands and artists, for people that are interested in it. As long as we can find the equilibrium between supply and demand, like that people, if cost is relatively cheap. And bands at $5 can still make a couple bucks from it, and people are interested and they only buy a box
if
of
there
100
is a
of them.
market, yeah.
And then people buy them like, all is well and fine in that. I think I'd much rather see people spend energy on things like NFTs and finding new mediums for making money as a band instead of clinging. Because I think the mistake that's happening here is people are like, we thought vinyl was this was a dumb trend for vinyl, and we don't want to get caught with our pants down, and so like we're gonna look at cassettes because its interest is starting to build on it, and I just nobody's hurting anybody, but I would just rather see energy put towards like new ways for bands to take their music and generate money from it than going like, here's a dusty old cigarette smelling cassette. It comes pre-installed with cigarette smell.
The cassettes don't smell bad.
Yeah,
they
you ever smelled
leave
one?
them in a 1976 Corolla.
That's what people are nostalgic for. They just want to smell the cigarette.
They just want to smell like the bowling alley smell that comes along with with the cassette. But I just want to,
wrap us up, Dane.
I think these arguments make sense when we think about it as a commodity and as an economic item in the marketplace.
Stop trying to appeal to me.
But I just think that there could be.
Get on my team.
He's not on our team.
I'm back on Team Chris.
No!
Gosh, you've forsaken me.
No.
Boom.
But I think if we think of this thing as a commodity, I think it's got shortcomings. But I also think there are some positives that are out there that people just don't want to see because they don't want to go like, ugh, cassettes again. I will say though that for bands and for record labels and for consumers, I think there's a lot of appeal that people are kind of like scoffing at because it seems kind of like a shitty medium when in fact the medium is totally awesome. Like it's cool to collect cassettes. It's cool to like be able to listen to physical music with a really low barrier of entry. Josh, you were talking about like being a 30-year-old and having a 30-something and being able to buy vinyl. Well, like what about like if like when you were like 20, would you have been able to start collecting vinyl? But could you start collecting cassettes? And could you afford to go to Savers and spend $8 on a killer?
In my notes for the show, I was like, these are my thoughts, and I was like, wait a minute, I am coming in from a certain perspective.
Yeah, so, and I think from a certain perspective, buying physical, you know, like if you're in your 50s, you might still be buying cassettes, or CDs.
I guess like if I'm in my 20s, like I'm just a free Spotify person, and like I have some shitty setup that I might listen to music on. You know, I don't see. To finish up here, I don't like it's Spotify, it's Apple Music. I'm a subscriber, I'm a free listener, whatever, and like that's my bottom, and that's my entry, because that's what I was doing at that age. Like I didn't have disposable income to waste on physical media. I had all my CDs were burned from other people. You know,
the argument I would make is basically like think of a guy like Sam Neilan, who in his 20s couldn't afford vinyl but was still buying vinyl, right? And so there's going to be a group of people that like want to buy vinyl in their 20s but go, I don't know, cassettes $5, man, let's go. And let's get a 20-year-old on here. Even if that number is 2% or 1% of the population of people buying physical media, like, all right, fine.
Dude, but I talk to 18-year-olds all day.
I was gonna say, please survey some of your youngins.
Yeah, no,
slide into their DMs and go.
Yeah, just slide right in about cassettes.
For real though, like when the light bulb goes off,
you can't say that.
I'm not gonna. For real, and my students have reported this, when they're awakened to music. And they, you know, because in the same way that we were, but just in a different context, like 20 years ago. But when they were awakened to music, and then they can see that there's more to music than just like the 20 seconds on TikTok, or like the one song in that playlist that they really like, and they see that there's an album of songs, or there's a band that's performing in Chicago next weekend, and they start becoming music fans and not just consumers of music. Like these are the kids that are like, oh my gosh, cassettes are so cool. Or, oh my gosh, you can just have this tangibly. Vinyl's awesome, but I don't have a record player, but I bet my dad still got his cassette player somewhere. I'm going to to me, I can see that for like actual literal teenagers right now, there might not be a huge difference between vinyl and cassettes. And in fact, I have this former student of mine who's obsessed with collecting CDs.
So
that's
I
his
do feel
nostalgic format.
Well, no, honest to God, like the 90s fad is completely in right now, and cassettes are right in line with that. So to me, it's just a matter of time before we have mass nostalgia for the aughts, and people are like, no, guys, CDs are where it's at, and I feel like that's coming. But
so
theoretically,
I have a place to land here with this conversation.
Please do. Bring the plane in.
I went to eBay and I found this seller who's for some reason got hundreds of these boxes.
You love eBay.
I do love eBay. He's got boxes of these like faded, like faded boxes of old Walkman, like off-brand Walkman. They're not Sony, they're not Walkmans, but they're like, you know, portable cassette players. And they're like $10 or $12, so I bought one. That's and cool. It's got like, you remember those headphones that like are basically just the metallic ribbon with like the fuzzy things at the end?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask.
I'm gonna do a giveaway with the record label where you know, somebody who retweets or it'll be something probably Instagram, like if a follower who tags someone who likes cassettes, I'm gonna send the cassette player with like 3 of our cassettes to them and say,
that's a good idea.
Hey, now you've got no reason to not buy cassettes elsewhere too. And I'm going to do this. Like, I'm thinking of doing it like every month. Like just keep buying more.
That's cool. That's a good idea.
Like an easy promotion and an easy way to get people excited about listening to cassettes.
Sell a bundle.
Speaking of giving away trash, we're going to talk about I
thought there was an easy 90s transition in here and you decided to go.
Here, speaking
We're not good with the transitions today. They're not smooth.
No, come on, they're great. Speaking of 90s trash,
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat. Ooh.
This episode's brought to you by 1996.
Chris, You know they did my boy Cabal right. And that,
I know.
you
I was very impressed.
they did my boy Kung Lao.
That's what we didn't get a chance to talk about. But the spinning hat,
Dude, he comes up from the teleport.
fatality.
Dude, the spinning hat fatality was so sick. Anyway,
hold on, guys, we got to save this for our Patreon third podcast about 90s nostalgia / Mortal Kombat fighting video games. Because we could talk. We could have a whole episode on Primal Rage if you wanted to.
I could do
Oh,
it.
nice.
Killer Instinct. Do you guys remember these games?
Killer Instinct, Clay Fighter.
Yeah.
Clay Fighter. There you go.
These are all.
So
Save them for the next podcast.
So the Offspring came out with a new record. First record in 8 years. It's called "Let the Bad Times Roll." We thought it'd be fun for us, the crew here, to take a look at it and deep dive on it. The crew here,
It's just 3 people.
the crew, the boys. You know,
The boys.
called the boys.
The Bunch
Let's
Boys.
crack open a cold one. The Bunch Boys. Call the Bunch Boys.
The Sunday Bunch Boys.
The Sunday Bunch Boys. It's my favorite thing in the world. So yeah,
Be.
let's start since Dane, you got the first one last time. Chris, where are you at with this one? Where are you at with we'll let the bad times roll? Did the bad times roll indeed?
This is like a Monday or a morning show. Did the bad times roll indeed?
Here to give his thoughts, Chris Marchetti. Did the bad times roll, Chris?
Speaking of people aren't hurting anybody, you know, I've gotten to this point in my life where I'm like, whatever, nobody's hurting anybody. Let them do whatever they want.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I think like 10 years ago, I would have been like, listen,
yeah.
and then gone on some sort of tangent. But
Yeah.
nobody's hurting anybody.
You were like, you would like tomahawk dunk on this.
Yeah,
10 years ago,
but I gotta tell you what.
It's another 90s video game reference, NBA Jam. I just want to point that out. Continue.
He's on fire. I'll tell you what. This album really surprised me.
Whoa.
I was like,
I'm laughing at
First of all-
Dane's eyeballs.
eyebrow raise. First of all, they started with like a double time weird rhythm drum beat, and I was like, well, hold on a second. Because I was expecting like, I haven't listened to The Offspring since like turning off Pretty Fly for a White Guy.
Let me actually, because I actually do want this to be part of the conversation. Give just like a 1 minute, like, what's your history with The Offspring?
Yeah, history with The Offspring is like, our older brothers had Smash, and we listened to Smash, and then didn't really listen to The Offspring. And I'm saying this for me, Josh. You might. This is
your experience. Yeah.
This is my story.
This is your
my
story.
Truth.
This is your truth.
This is my truth.
Speak your truth, Chris.
And then, like, I never really listened to The Offspring. Like, I never really listened to The Offspring. You know, there was like them as a pop culture thing, but outside of that, I just outside of listening to Smash from our older brothers, I never listened to Offspring deliberately, I should say. That's my history. That's my truth. But I was really surprised by this record and how much I liked it. There are some weird, awful things going on in here, like just awful things,
like that Cherry Poppin' Daddy song.
Yeah, we never have sex anymore. I was like, what is going on here? And that, by the way, made me dive into like, did they find writers on this album? Some of these songs are really like Offspringy and some of them aren't. And that made me find, in case you guys didn't notice,
he's got papers in his hands.
Oh boy.
I got papers.
Here we go.
On tracks 2 and 7, do you know who drummed on tracks 2 and 7? Josh Freese.
Yeah, I was gonna
say that guy shows up everywhere.
It's funny you say that because like one of my notes for the show is like the drumming's good. But continue, yeah.
But
maybe Dane
let
disagrees.
Let the bad times roll. I was like, I bet I'm going to listen to that song more than 10 times going into the future. There was some really good, like, pop punky stuff. Obviously, no one let Dexter Holland know that he doesn't have to sing into a computer microphone anymore. Like, don't do that. Just get a normal microphone. Stop this like tinny whateverness that you've decided. Like, Smash as an album has no low end whatsoever. Everybody cranked the treble on every piece of that album, and they decided to continue that like 20 years later. I don't understand why. Anyway, moral of the story is there's some really good Hassan Chop.
Huh?
The song Hassan Chop.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh my god, some of these songs turned out like I was like, I'm in the car going like, come on. Hold
Okay.
on a second.
All right, hold
Hold
on.
on a
Hold
second.
on. Hold on now. Hold on.
That one sentence is my review. Hold on a second.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Interesting.
I bet you guys both thought that I was gonna shit on it.
I think Dane's gonna shit on it. Dane.
Oh, no.
Can I share my history of the Offspring?
Yeah, I do. I actually, this is very interesting to me. So, yeah, what's
When
your
I was in-
1 minute history with?
Yeah, when I was in middle school, like we were pretty big Offspring fans. Probably before, because like Smash was on the radio, and I have vivid memories of being at band camp at U of I and listening to Smash and like prank calling people with that. What was that one song with all the swears?
You stupid
yeah.
dumb shit.
Got it.
Bad habit. Yeah.
Bad Habits, yeah. And then Ixnay and the Hombre came out, and that was like kind of a formative record. That was one of the first punk records we really got into, along with Dude Ranch. And man, there's not a bad song on Ixnay. Like that's just a great record. Americana came out when I was in high school, and my marching band played Pretty Fly for a White Guy.
Didn't every marching band?
Yeah,
bunch
it
of
was
nerds?
bad.
You are locking yourself in here.
But then there are also really great songs from Americana, and my
Yeah.
my thesis statement on the Offspring has always been there's always a couple songs that seem to be like they're trying to get mainstream attention, like a kid who's just trying really hard, and then the rest of the songs are pretty solid. One thing that's also notable is like my first band played a lot of really old Offspring songs from like their first record and stuff. So I actually have their first album. I think it's self-titled.
Smash.
No, their very first one.
Oh, yeah.
Their oldest one that was recorded. I think it was recorded by Brett Gurewitz and all that. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, dude, that first album is amazing, and it's weird. It's got all these like. So when I'm listening to a record by a new band or by an old band that's recorded new music, I'm trying to find this balance between let's find something recognizable that made them the band that they were with. Let's find something new that it makes putting out a new record worth it. And like that's just sort of the balance I try to find. And I feel like there's a lot more of the latter than the former, and that was disappointing for me. Like I was trying to listen for the things that I really loved when I was in high school, and it just kept making me want to listen to Ixnay and the Hombre. And you know what I mean? It made me want to listen to like the older albums. And that was
Instead of trying with the new album, is there?
Well, I did keep trying. I kept spinning it, but
yeah.
at a certain point, I kept listening for like that song "Army of One," like has that weird like Middle Eastern guitar kind of thing that they do in a lot of songs. I don't really know how to describe it, but that like the chord progression feels very like. I don't know, it's got that certain, like, I don't know if it's a minor key kind of thing, but there's a certain way these progressions sound. And I liked that. But then I couldn't get over the fact that this record felt like a quarantine record. Like they had just been sharing files that they recorded in their basements. And some of the drums have like electronic drum kind of qualities to them where they sound very like again, like somebody has just drum triggers on their drums to capture, the drum sound instead
probably
of.
do.
I mean, like, and the vocal mix just sounds. I like so. There's those.
That's classic.
It is, but it also sounded like I couldn't decide if it was that classic Dexter Holland kind of singing, like recording quality, or like he really was just recording this in his basement because it was quarantine and they needed to make a record.
That's
What
part
I'll
of
tell
it.
you is that
That is part
it
of
was it was done recording before the pandemic.
Okay.
I started reading about
So
it.
then,
I thought I read that. I thought I read differently, but
Yeah.
To me, the quality kind of, for some of the songs, like, I feel like I could enjoy them more if the quality didn't feel off. I will say there's this thing that happens right in the middle of the Oh, and I also have to say, I love the song Gone Away so much. And I don't mind this like piano version. It's very pretty and totally unnecessary. Like it doesn't.
I unnecessary is the exact right word for that.
But there are these two songs towards the end of the record, like the Opioid Diaries and Hassan Chop. That as soon as they hit, I was like, like
We showed up.
the
the
Opioid
end.
Diaries is straight up like is the Offspring that I like, and I will probably add that song to a playlist somewhere and listen to it over and over again because I just kept skipping to that song, and then Hassan Chop comes in, and I was like there for that one too. But honestly, the rest of the record just sort of felt like a reach for me. It didn't feel like it was too much of a band that like was trying to do different new things, or that was just trying to rekindle a spark that they had but wasn't, instead of rekindling that spark.
I would say that I definitely landed on the Dane side more of things.
What's your history with the Offspring?
Yeah. So much like you, Chris, had an older brother, which I actually think we had Smash on cassette. And I do remember speaking.
We don't have it anymore.
Just saying.
It's in a landfill somewhere.
Floating around the ocean.
It's inside of a turtle somewhere. But
Real nice
I do remember that that speaking of Bad Habit, I do remember that like that was the first song that I was like, oh, I'm listening to something I probably shouldn't be listening to. I do remember that, like,
Yeah, for
like
sure.
on that cassette, being like, "You stupid dumb shit, goddamn motherfucker." I was like,
To a middle schooler, like, that's
And
every
I-
middle school boy's dream song,
dude. And I'm like, I'm a couple years younger than you, Dane. So like that, that hit even when I was younger than you. So it was definitely like, oh, my brothers are into cool music.
Yeah. We had this. Do you remember that boombox we had?
Of course,
That was like
of course.
this big, but
Yeah.
this wide.
Yeah,
They were,
had one like that
super
too.
wide.
Putting pieces of clean toilet paper in there so you can record over. Anyway,
Record Adam Sandler tape.
But no, I think I stuck with them a little bit more than you, Chris. I was a big fan of X-Nay and Americana, and then just straight up dropped off up until this point, which is why I like this show, because it's forcing me to listen to things I probably might have skipped otherwise. So, that said, I'm pretty much with Dane on this one. The notes that I had were bad songs. We never have sex anymore. And tricked. Oh, I wrote songs I was tricked by, gone away, which I was. But you know what? Like I actually did like it. I did like that song. Despite like maybe being unnecessary, like it was just nice. Like I can get behind that. It had that vibe of all around me are familiar faces, worn on face, like that song. I forget the name of that song. It was like, oh, this is too similar to that. Good song, Opioid Diaries. I thought was actually what that was the song where I was like, oh shit, okay, here we go. Songs that are Black Keys / American Idiot songs written for commercials and movies, coming for you. Just straight up like, all right, let's write one that can go in a commercial, guys. All right, guys. And I was like, do I like this song? No, I like the Black Keys, and I I like it when they did it better. The Raconteurs wrote this song, and it was better. I mean, probably chord for chord, if I really had to break it down. Songs that are Dead Kennedys songs, Army of One.
I like Army of One. I didn't
say
when you listen to the
it was a bad
drums,
song.
though, go back and listen to the drums. They sound weird and like weirdly produced, or like a drum machine. And maybe that's the Josh Freese. I don't know if that's one of the ones he was on, but like
2 and 7. He was on Let the Bad Times Roll, and we.
Oh, really?
Never 6. Huh? That doesn't seem.
That doesn't seem right.
No, because one of them, whatever the.
Chris, don't worry. Somebody will write in and correct us. So one of our listeners.
God,
will
I can only
write in
hope.
and correct us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I initially I was like, where are the balls in this? Like I was like, this guy's 55 and it's like punk without the punch. But as I continue to listen, that kind of, you like that, Chris?
Nah, it's just my understanding of the Offspring is they've never had punch. Like it's
Disagree.
just-
Oh no.
Disagree. Hard disagree.
Yeah. Like go back to X-Nay and like really, jam it. And I'm sure maybe some of their other stuff. I heard the one from 08 was supposed to be really good, but I didn't listen. But then as I kept listening, it evolved, and I was like, okay, I can see some of the, just like you guys, I can see some of the high points here, and I can appreciate some of what's going on here. So yeah, ultimately, like, but to absolutely to Chris's point, where like, hey man, if you got to do it, do it.
It's not hurting anybody.
Not hurting anybody.
Not hurting
We're not
anybody.
hurting anybody.
I think the interest, and to summarize, I think the interesting thing is here that after X amount of years for being a band, like there are songs all of us are going to pull off of this album to put other places.
Yeah, I agree.
And like that's an interesting conversation to have by itself, but I think that means that they probably didn't put out a bad album.
I think they probably, dude. I would totally buy the 7-inch with Opioid Diaries on side A and Hassan Chop on side B. And actually, I legit thought that maybe these were like recorded piecemeal, like in like bits and pieces, because those songs just stand. I kept listening to the Opioid Diaries and comparing it to other songs to see like, do they sound different? Could they be like funny? Totally different recordings?
What I thought about Hassan Chop specifically too, along those lines, I was like, I felt some of that like early Offspring kind of goofiness with that too, with the intro, you know, and I feel like that's really like you go for that. Just get some of that. We don't need the commercial songs. We don't need the Cherry Poppin' Daddy songs. We need like, you know. Anyway,
yeah.
Also, whoever wrote we never have sex anymore. Like, you know. Hope you guys are okay and you're getting the help that you need.
You know, it's 2021. It's not weird to get into BetterHelp.com. It's fine. If they want to sponsor us,
hold on. I was just gonna say I have an idea for us with BetterHelp.com, but whatever. We'll save it for like a meeting, like a post-production meeting.
So, Chris, where's this one going to sit for you for 2021?
Yeah, I will. I'm going to listen to it again. I don't know if it'll be like top albums of 2021, but I will. You're
more positive about it, yeah.
To Dane's point, I'm going to skip around a lot, but there are enough songs on here for me to go like, yeah,
cool. Dane, what about you for 2021?
I probably will be listening to other Offspring records the rest of the week.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I'm going to come back to this one. Even the Opioid Diaries and Hassan Chop, which are two songs that I thought were like really awesome songs, really. I will probably add them to a playlist or something like that, but I don't know that I want to do much more with them.
I real quick, last point, I did kind of A/B test between the 08 Smash reissue and this one. I just wanted to hear like if there, you know, how that, and I actually do feel like recording wise it was pretty similar, which is probably not a great compliment for the record, but
but that's weird to me because it feels to me like, why does Smash feel like so much more powerful? Is it us as listeners and just feeling nostalgic, or is
I just meant for quality,
right?
For
but
sound
if
quality,
the quality is similar, then what is missing from the new record that Smash has, or are we just like biased towards Smash?
Yeah, for me, this one's gonna be like, oh yeah, I remember when I listened to that record for Rock and Roll Brunch. That's about it. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap this bad boy up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and joining us. If you like what you hear, we are available. The Rock and Roll Brunch is on Instagram, so check us out there. You can also find our website with all our downloads, as well as YouTube. All the episodes are here on YouTube, so you can go check them out as well. I think the last episode got like 5 views, so, you know, people are watching. One of those was me. Maybe one of them was Chris. Speaking of Chris, where can people find what you're up to, Chris?
The throwbackchicago.com. We got shows finally coming up this summer, so we're starting to get
any dates you want to plug? Or
I should know them off the top of my head, but I do not.
Good
know
stuff. Good job. Yep.
Go.
We have June 5th will be our first one. So please go check it out. Dane, what about you? Where can people check out what you're up to?
Jetsam-flotsam@bandcamp.com is a good place to start and to get a vibe for some of the cassettes that my label releases, and records, I guess, too.
And t-shirts.
Yeah, there's some shirts. We actually have some really cool releases. Like last month we released Safety's record. Next week we released this short little EP by this band, Graduation Speech. That's more acoustic-y but pretty awesome. And we've got some other really good records that are just like waiting for me. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
So it's gonna be good.
Very cool.
Like it.
Yep. And then, like I said, just me. It's all this. Rock and Roll Brunch. You can also email us, rockandrollbrunch@gmail.com. Tell us what a piece of shit Chris is and how great Dane's accent is and how amazing of a host I am.
Wow. That was dark.
What's up?
I have
With
questions
that,
about my accent. I don't really understand
my
this.
accent. With that, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, check please.